Welcome back to CryptosRUs. I'm George. We're all George. So happy Sunday. We're about to start a new week. So what can we expect? Let's take a look. And also, of course, we got to talk about this explosive new interview with Gary Gensler. And let's discuss what he said about Bitcoin and all crypto in general. And it's not good. It's not good at all. All right, let's jump right in. Welcome, guys. Let's see how this week will go. Right now, Bitcoin is still right around 23,000, a little bit above. So you can see we're at the same level before we pumped up to over 24,000. You can see starting from, late January all the way up to basically mid-February. This was the level we were hovering at, right? So overall, we're just going sideways, right? We haven't dumped more. We haven't formed a new bottom. We haven't done anything like that. We just basically came back down. And why did we come back down? Well, unfortunately, last week, we got some bad data. PCE inflation data showed that inflation headed up in January, right? That kind of spooked a lot of people out. But overall, Bitcoin is still looking pretty strong. And as for this week, we have more, of course, economic data, consumer confidence, jobless claims, durable goods orders. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, everything is pretty much important this week. I think everyone is still trying to predict, with that last bad reading, what's going to happen with the rate hike, right? This is what everyone's speculating. We're in this period where good economic data is bad for markets, and inflation data also doesn't help, right? So people are just kind of predicting. So this is what it's looking like. Just 1 month ago, people thought the next rate hike in the U.S. would not be more than 25 basis points, right? But that sentiment has been changing. It was less than 5% of people thought a month ago that we were going to get 50 basis points. And 1 week ago, jumped up over 15%. A day ago, it jumped up over 25%. And now it's jumped over 30%. So now it's starting to be baked in that the next rate hike may be 50 basis points rather than 25. Again, I think it really depends on all the economic data that we're going to get between now and then. We still have almost a full month, and I do believe we get another CPI reading before the FOMC meeting. So it could still be 25 basis points. This could just be a slight hiccup, okay? Slight hiccup, and we will move past this. So I don't think it's time to panic just yet, but obviously last week Wall Street did panic on Friday and Thursday, and that's where we are, right? But we'll see this week how the economic data comes in. Now, as for Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin, you may be wondering, well, so is it going to head back up or not? Well, we're pressed against this very important 200 weekly moving average, and if we do break it, it could be quite tremendous. Like right now, we're pressing up against it. And you can see on this chart, last time we broke below and broke back above. Very, 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 very good things happened. And that was actually the COVID crash. The COVID crash of March of 2020. This cuts off, but in 2019, same thing. We temporarily broke through it, and then we start exploding. Right now, we are trying to break through it. We are very, very oversold from a weekly perspective, from a monthly perspective, and Bitcoin is looking to shatter that. And once we do, that means we're definitely on track and moving towards the next bull run, bull cycle, which will probably come after 2024. But that doesn't mean we can't have a really good recovery. This is what happened after 2019 when we did utilized a weekly moving average, a 200 weekly moving average. We dipped slightly below, like just a little bit. And then after we found that bottom, we start recovering. This is what it looks like, right? It recovered. Bitcoin went up really, really quickly. So this is still in play. There's many people that think that by June of this year, which is only 3 months from now, we could have explosiveness upwards possibly as high as 40 or 50,000 if we break through that 200 weekly moving average. This is what we have to look forward to, right? And I mean, if it happens, awesome. I don't know if it's going to happen. And just to keep things in perspective, last time this happened, when Bitcoin went through 3,000 to 14,000, it did take a breather afterwards because the recovery, the bounce was just a little bit too ferocious, a little bit too much, right? So if we do hit 50,000 somehow by June, it'll be marvelous, but then we probably have to prepare for the fact that it may start coming down a little bit too from that. But nevertheless, breaking through that 200 weekly moving average is going to be a fantastic thing moving forward. And when you zoom out like this, right, you'll realize, well, if you break through, right, you break through that 200 weekly moving average, or you break through the neckline breakout support, which if you look at is pretty much around the same point. It's close, right? But what happens afterwards, very, very good things happen, right? So stay strong, my friends. Still a lot of goodness about to come. And this also relates to the Gary interview that we'll get to a little bit. But in the meantime, look at this. Percent supply last active 2+ years, all-time high. 51% of Bitcoin has not moved in 2 years. Okay, here's another follow-up. What about 3 years? 39% at an all-time high. And you go, okay, what about 5 years? Even higher. Every single metric, basically, the number of hodled coins from 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. If I show a 10-year one, they're all reaching all-time highs right now. It seems like every week there's just more and more and more Bitcoins being held, and as supply continues to diminish and demand continues to thrive, you know what that adds up to, right? So very good things to look forward to. All right, now what about this explosive interview with this guy right here? That's a good-looking picture. Okay, you gotta admit it's a pretty good-looking picture. A good headshot. Well, where's that interview? I think I just opened up. Oh, there we go. Okay, that's how you do it. So Gary Gensler, he loves the press. I don't remember Jay Clayton being like this. Gary Gensler's predecessor, people ripped on Jay Clayton just because he didn't approve of Bitcoin ETF. But that was it. He didn't really attack crypto. And he didn't do nearly as many interviews or videos or articles. I mean, Gary is like, he enjoys the spotlight for sure. But anyways, in this interview, it kind of talks about, well, his relationship with Sam Bankman-Fried. Of course, he dodged that. But ultimately in here, if you read through here, okay, it's pretty long. It's pretty long. Basically, he's like, yeah, I love the CFTC, but regardless, he says that SEC thinks, I don't know if that whole SEC thinks or just himself. I think it's more himself because we have commissioners like Hester Pierce that believes that the SEC has gone too far. I mean, this is someone that works as a commissioner in the SEC. So I think it's more of just Gary, not really all of SEC. But Gary basically declared that outside of Bitcoin, he believes Bitcoin is a commodity, okay, which means that CFTC can rule. I mean, CFTC's basically proceeds over commodities. So he believes that Bitcoin is a commodity. But outside of Bitcoin, every single thing in crypto space is a security. Every single thing. And his main justification for that is it doesn't matter how the cryptos are presented, what they do. If there's an expectation of making money from that crypto, it's a security. So that's his ultimate definition. That's what I got out of here. Like, if there's some way to make money, okay, even through staking rewards, like if there's some expectation of making money from holding on that crypto, it's a security. That's his broad definition. Now, that is being challenged, okay? Just because Gary says so doesn't mean that everyone else just accepts that, right? But because he is in the position where, he's the head of the SEC and there's not a lot of precedence over what he has done. There's not a lot of laws and rules in place to kind of look at these things. He's just saying it, and that's his opinion, right? But there are others that are challenging that. For example, the CFTC also declared Ethereum a commodity, which the SEC previously declared a commodity. But now Gary doesn't want to recognize that, but he doesn't come out and flat out and says it. He doesn't flat out and say, yes, Ethereum is a security. No. He dodges that question, and he just says, I believe Bitcoin is the only commodity out there. See, that's the thing, right? It's like he wants to make the ruling, but he has pushback. There's definitely pushback. Even interagencies like the CFTC and possibly others, are pushing back. And there's definitely a lot of Congress people pushing back. But, Congress has more dire things to worry about, like the debt ceiling and stuff. But so yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. So that's why I label basically Gary wants to ban all crypto. He basically wants to ban everything. It's just going to move innovation outside the US. What ultimately, if he gets his way and he declares everything a security, right? What's going to happen is every single exchange in the US, every single crypto project in the US, every single wallet in the US, every single DeFi project in the US will move out of the US. That's what ultimately is going to happen. Is it going to derail crypto overall for a little bit? Possibly. But long term, of course not, because crypto is not just a US thing, it's a worldwide thing. And what this is going to do is just really hinder innovation and progress in the US, right? It's going to suck if you're in the US like I am, right? So ultimately, that's what it's leading towards, unless we get some allies and really start pushing back. And I'm really hoping that Ripple is one of those that pushes back and wins, because there is still that big lawsuit, right, between SEC and Ripple. And if Ripple wins, and I do think they have a good shot, this will definitely push Gary back a little bit, put him in his place a little bit, okay? Because Gary right now has been attacking companies that he knows they can't defend. He knows they don't have the resources to go into a multi-year lawsuit with, right? Who did they go after? They went after Kraken, one of the smaller guys. Did they go after Coinbase? No, Coinbase said they were going to fight it tooth and nail with, with staking, right? Did they go after Binance.US? No, they knew Binance.US and Coinbase could both fight this forever. So they went after a smaller guy, Kraken. Same thing with stablecoins. Who did they go after? They went after Paxos. Did they go after Circle? No, because Circle has the resources to fight forever. So they went after Paxos. Again, did they go after Binance? No, they went after Paxos because they knew Paxos couldn't defend themselves, right? So what he's doing is attacking all the smaller companies, setting precedents on some of his rulings and just declaring a law. But that's not the case. That's not the case. So I really hope that Ripple does win, because Ripple does have the money. Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson, they have hundreds of millions, and they have more to deploy if necessary, right? So I am really hoping that Ripple wins, and I'm really hoping that others that have the resources can fight back. Unfortunately, like someone like Grayscale was going to sue the SEC also for not allowing a Bitcoin ETF. But Grayscale's not looking so good right now because of DCG and Genesis, right? So unfortunately, I think they're out of the picture. But I'm really hoping some of these other bigger guys come in and say, hey, we're not just going to let you dictate things just because it's your opinion, right? The court of law has to decide that. Anyways, so that's what I got out of it. And it's still early, but Gary keeps reiterating the same stance. He's like, I believe Bitcoin is a commodity, and that's it. I guess we will see. All right. as for other crypto news, Solana had to make a second restart, and it looks like they are finally back. Yesterday, I reported Solana, their entire chain froze, no transactions at all. All the nodes somehow got a bug through some new update, and they had to roll it back. And then, they restarted. Apparently, it didn't work. They had to restart again, and now it looks like their transaction is back. So they're back to about 5,000 transactions. I think they're back. They were like hovering around 4,000 before. Now this is 5,000, and then they dropped to like 100 transactions per second or something like that, right? It's still unclear what caused the service outage, but many speculate that it's some kind of bug or something like that. I don't know. I mean, it's just not. If it's your personal computer and you need to restart, fine. If it's your phone, restart, fine. But when you have to restart the entire chain, that means all the liquidity, all the Solana that's locked into the liquidity pools on the DEXs, on chain itself, when it all becomes dead because the network is dead and you have to restart, there's a problem there, right? And I've said this before, Solana goes through way too many of these. They need to fix it. They need to fix it fast. And before, it was more like, denial of service attacks or a lot of spam attacks. But recently, it just seems like it's just bugs. It's just bugs that appear on these new softwares. Anyways, so hopefully they can patch themselves up and stop this from happening in the future. We don't really hear about this with any other chain. Maybe periodically once or twice, but not like nowhere close to the amount of restarts needed for Solana. Yeah. All right. Outside of that, Voyager may be selling some assets on Coinbase, which is really weird. Because Voyager has been bought out by now Binance.us. There's talks about how Voyager, or you're going to get a lot of your crypto back once you have created account on Binance.us, right? The SEC is trying to push back on it, but the judge, I think, is going to allow it through. SEC, again, it's just trying to stop everything. But according to on-chain data, Voyager is selling a lot on Coinbase for some reason. Maybe this is their own assets, right? But they have received 100 million USDC from Coinbase in the last 3 days. Is this their own assets or users' assets? What are they selling? Is this to pay the lawyers? Those lawyers are very, very expensive. I don't know, but people are looking at it. But hopefully, people get some of their crypto back. Voyager's the first to kind of sell themselves out. Like Celsius, I don't know what's happening there. I mean, the ruling is still going. I don't know if anyone's going to buy their assets. And then BlockFi is still in a heated dispute because they want those Robinhood shares from SBF. And Genesis, I don't know what exactly is happening. So I think DCG is trying to sell off assets to pay for Genesis. Yeah, but, hopefully we get a resolution sooner than later. Speaking of FTX, I don't think anyone here is watching me from Japan, but if you are, it's good that you can withdraw. Exchanges in Japan are created, there's like law so that they have to be like their own separate entity with their own reserves. And in this case, that turned out to be a very good thing because there's enough to let people withdraw. So that's great if you are in Japan. But everywhere else, unfortunately, that's not the case. And then lastly, some more metaverse NFT news. Clay Nation and their NFT project, which is pretty popular, I believe. It was one of the most popular NFT projects. They're partnering up with Sandbox. So there will be an experience in Sandbox dedicated to Clay Nation and Cardano. So overall, it's good. Sandbox has been making a lot of news recently. A lot of news. So we are definitely hearing more about metaverses, NFTs, and gaming and Web 3.0 in general, a lot more these days than, say, in 2022. So good thing. Good things. All right. That is pretty much it overall. We'll have to see how this week turns out. Let's do some Q&A. All right. Maybe Gary and his friends are Bitcoin holders and do not want competition. Well, Gary himself is worth over $100 million. Again, I don't know how he made his money, but anyone that makes over $100 million, they have. Okay, let's just put it this way. Anyone that has over $100 million and is in public office, they have some kind of agenda. Okay? Because you're already rich enough, but you have some kind of agenda to further, I don't know, your power, your ego, business relationships, your friends. There's something going on there, right? And Gary has something going on there. So all these elected officials, they're all filthy rich. I remember Mnuchin before Janet Yellen. I don't know what Janet Yellen's worth, but I'm pretty sure she's worth probably hundreds of millions. I remember Mnuchin, looking him up, the previous Treasury Secretary, and he was worth over $100 million. I'm like, how did all these guys make over $100 million? Every single politician or elected official or just appointed official are all extremely, extremely wealthy. And is that a good thing? I just feel like they all have their own agendas. And Gary has definitely his own agenda for sure. Should I convert my soul to something else or keep it back? Someone let me know. Free speech, you got to determine that for yourself. Do you like something better? Do you not trust Solana anymore? Right? You have to make that determination. Do you think DeFi kingdoms will reach all-time high again? Well, they're very, 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 very far off. But from what I can tell, the community is still strong. And they're still pushing forward. They're not giving up. And with this kind of, dedication and conviction, right? It could certainly happen in the next bull run. All we have to do is change administration in 2024. As soon as that happens, Gary's gone. Yeah, I don't know if the administration is going to change in 2024, though. Why do people bully ADA? No one really bullies ADA. People may not like it because it doesn't move as quick as some of the other crypto. But a lot of people support Cardano. Did you see Yellen came out yesterday and said crypto will not be banned in the U.S.? I saw that. I don't know how to take that. Honestly, I don't think Yellen really knows anything that she says. I think she's being told what to say. So I wouldn't put too much weight into that. It's really hard to ban crypto, right? But if Gary gets his way and declares everything as security, most crypto will just stop operating in the U.S. because the amount of resources needed to dedicate to all the reports and filings and all that stuff is way more than what most projects can do. So it's not technically a ban, but it will basically shut down all the projects out there. So you just can't have Gary get his way, basically. Gary was the youngest partner at Goldman Sachs ever. He owns a fund controlled by Vanguard. Well, I guess that makes sense. Every one of these guys that come out of Goldman, they're all super wealthy. And they all come out of Goldman. There's something like some secret society that comes out of Goldman Sachs. And John B, I have no idea. I have no idea what those projects are. Is exchanging fiat and crypto using P2P platforms illegal in any way? I've been doing so for about 12 months, and all the banks, including P2P like Cash App, closed my apps without ever giving me a specifics. What do you mean P2P platforms? Like what? local Bitcoins? Like, what P2P platforms are you talking about? Fizzle. Because if you're buying crypto from someone on the street, technically, it's illegal for him to do that, right? There has been people that have gone to jail for that because there's some laws against it. Like you're basically operating as like a legal bank, basically, right? I don't know if that's what you're referring to or using like Cash App, because using Cash App to buy Bitcoin with is not illegal. And banks that close your accounts basically are just anti-crypto. So Fizzle, I don't know what you're referring to. Per yesterday, Caspa is not the same as Nano. It's a block DAG mineable proof of work, not shilling as it approaches previous all-time high. SEC. Well, Deep Random Thinker, thank you for that. But it's obvious that you are shilling Caspa because that's all you talk about. But anyways, I appreciate it. It still doesn't change my mind on Caspa. Just because it is a proof of work chain doesn't ultimately make it better. Some people argue it does. It uses a Satoshi consensus, but so does Cadena. You know, I do like Cadena. They're relatively small, just like Caspa, but I think it's maybe a little bit bigger. But just because it's proof of work doesn't make it somehow better. You still need a supporting ecosystem. Am I going to watch Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury in a couple hours? No, I'm not going to pay for that. I don't care who wins, honestly. I was looking for Jake Paul to fight Andrew Tate, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. VI Jokers, I keep DCing in Bitcoin, stay strong. That's the right attitude. That's the only true way to win overall, is just to keep DCing. Zach, I'm not going to answer that question. That's a loaded question, and it's really irrelevant. No one has to choose 100% into Bitcoin or Ethereum. Okay? There's no reason why you can't do a 50-50 split. So it's a pointless question to ask. Remember the cell phone? I do remember it, and I was making fun of it. And, you know, stuff like this is just, it's just distraction. Like, Solana still has a shop in New York. Like, what is that shop going to do for them? Zero. Right? What is that phone going to do? Zero. You know, I like to remind you guys, there's a project that has done all those things. Opened up fancy stores and promoted a fancy phone. And you know where they are? They are in the ground.
What do you think about Ripple?
Well, I mean, I think it's too centralized, but I definitely want to meet Chris Larson.
And that's the type of commercials they put out. And that's what put them into the ground. And it turned out the leadership of that project were all fraudsters, and they may be in jail. And some of the founders of that project was also part of Celsius, which was what made me not trust Celsius after I discovered that fact, right? Like, so that's why when Solana came out with their idea of a shop, a physical shop and physical phones, I'm like, that's just idiotic. again, it's distraction. It takes your resources away from fixing the chain, for example, right? Like, there's no sense to it at all. People in California are allowed to steal up to $950, but God forgive if you sell a few sats. Yeah, that's the problem with state laws versus federal laws. There are some federal laws, like if you're selling Bitcoin, you could go to jail for that. Have the FTX SBF shenanigans made you more of a BTC maxi? No. I've never swayed away. My guidance has always been 50 25 25. 50% in Bitcoin, 25% in big caps, 25% in small caps. So, it's not like I've really gone away from that. Bitcoin, I've said, Bitcoin is the only crypto out there that I can trust will be around in 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, 100 years. Everything else, including like Ethereum or Cardano or Solana, Avalanche, Polygon, you don't know if they're going to be around in 10, 20, 30, 50 years. They could be replaced, right? Because they're more like technology. Bitcoin is a store of value. So you can never have too many Bitcoins. The end game, in my opinion, is to accumulate as many Bitcoins as possible. That's the end game. How do I pick which questions? Whatever looks interesting to me. That's it. Whatever that looks interesting to me. All right, guys, I'll let you guys go. I'm going to grab some lunch. Overall, let's see what happens this week. Bitcoin is down a little bit. We got a lot of economic news to look forward to, right? But we also have to worry about this guy. Is he going to kill crypto in the U.S.? Let's hope he doesn't get in the way. But in the meantime, there's a lot of goodness that could be happening with Bitcoin. So let's wait and see. Smash the like, subscribe to the channel. I will see you guys tomorrow bright and early, 8:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. Take care. Bye-bye.